Excuse me while I kiss the sky. Sing a song of sixpence, pocket full of lies. Thinking I'm okay, but they're saying otherwise. Tell me how I look, but can't look me in the eyes. Watching as I say this and then I do that. Telling them the old words, but in a new rap. Then I change my mind up and make them lose track. Shit, I'm inconsistent, I thought you knew that. Maybe I should be more grateful that I had to watch it all come undone. Holding so tight to the edge is painful, but I can't ignore it. I know that watching as I fall, staring as I go. I gave until my soul hurt and never told them so. But watching as I fall to somewhere down below. Or maybe I'm just falling to get somewhere they won't. To get somewhere. Excuse me while I sympathize. Singing with the fat lady. Tell me what's the
Well, Topic Radio, what it up? What's up, Phoenix?
How's it going?
Miles, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Very well, very well. Guessing that's not your type of flow there.
Whatever works.
No, that right there is the new one of the new 3 songs that Mike Shinoda of Linkin Park just released after Chester passed away. All 3 songs have to relate to that, so that's why I played it in memory of Chester Bennington. Everybody lost a great musician, and that last album, the One More Light album, amazing. I don't know if you've heard it, Miles. Have you?
No, I haven't heard it. Mm-mm.
I highly recommend it. There's no screaming. There's no. Well, one song has Mike, rapping a little bit, but that's only one out of the probably 11 songs on the CD. And the CD is about Chester at his peak of, I mean, like, just the voice that Chester had in this album is amazing. Amazing. And the music's pretty decent too. I mean, it's just really good. I'll send you a couple things later. Maybe you'll dig on them, I think.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, but that was just Mike Shinoda. It's that. It's 2 other songs, guys. Check it out on YouTube, and it's on iTunes as well. So, anyway, there you go. And they didn't pay me anything for that. That's okay. Yep. I'm still not over Chester Bennington's death, really, to be honest. Linkin Park was one of my, favorite bands growing up, like, because they kind of, like, it was one of those bands that kind of, I don't know, Phoenix, if you can relate to this. I don't think you can. Were you a big Linkin Park fan?
No,
Phoenix?
I'm a little.
Okay, so Lopez would feel me on this one. Like, when, because, Linkin Park was one of those bands that kind of, like, matured as a band. So a lot of fans kind of dropped out when they started doing different stuff, But they were just maturing as a band. I mean, you figure by now it's, 18 years later? And where they got to 18 years later is One More Light is just an amazing album. Everybody should really check it out because it's nothing like what you think of Linkin Park when you think of, like, Hybrid Theory and Meteoria, the first 2 albums, like, back in the day, And
Yeah, that
that's
rock.
Go ahead.
In the last 12 months, we've lost a lot of everybody's favorites.
Chris Cornell comes to mind right away. I mean,
Yeah, and me being a little older, Soundgarden really was the power that got us through the end of the 80s. And like you say, with a maturing band, the early stuff is there's a lot of spit, and there's not less spit in the later stuff. It's just, it becomes beautiful and more, complex.
exactly. And they start, they start like first they learn what they were setting out to do, and then they kind of refine that, and then they move on to the next level and learn new stuff after that, and it's just like a progression, and it's really fun to follow. I mean, Pink Floyd's a perfect example. I mean, everybody thinks, oh, Dark Side of the Moon was great. Wasn't that their first album? No.
Yeah.
I mean,
The early stuff was
Ooh.
The early stuff with Sid is very weird.
It's
And
a listen.
I've got the bike, you could try it if you like. It's got a something in a basket, and you can borrow it if you want to. But
Adam Hart Mother.
exactly. I mean, that's an insane album right there. Adam Hart Mother. I mean, whew. I mean, I think Metal was one of their first albums where they were like, okay, this is starting to sound something like I Know Floyd, and then Echoes came out, and you're like, all
I
right, I
I
can dig
have to
on
say,
Echoes.
one of the most incredible moments of my life was sitting at Griffith Park Observatory in Hollywood watching the Pink Floyd laser light show in the planetarium and
Oh, you got to do that?
getting to the end of Dark Side of the Moon. And I looked over at my friend, and it was just like, it's literally moments away from the end. And I'm like, man, I wish that one of these days would play. And as I said that, it faded up, and they played One of These Days only for Metal at the end.
That's
And
awesome.
and that's when they really turned all the lights on, man. That was shocking. Plus, we were on mushrooms, so
That always
little
helps.
freak.
That
Yeah.
always helps. Phoenix, favorite Floyd album.
Final Cut. Told you that before. You do
I
not
know.
agree with me.
No, I do not. But hey, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's so hard to pick a favorite, though, right? Honestly. Uh,
You could sway me a couple different ways, but for me, that's the one. I don't know. It's when Rogers really took over the band, which is when Miles and I were talking about before that.
Mm.
Rogers' solo albums, I really love them, and then that was basically a solo album for him.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
it.
I like that. I like that album a lot. But I lived through Dark Side of the Moon, and I was a kid, and that's symphonic in a way that even as a child, I was like, wow, what? So where do they procure that magic?
Yeah.
You know,
That's the one you could sway me is better.
it's
It's just a matter of personal preference. I think
and it's all
it's just not my favorite.
it's the content.
I mean, there's a reason why, like, almost every Pink Floyd concert ever played, like, the first set is just a bunch of mishmash of, like, a bunch of different songs. The second set is Dark Side of the Moon from beginning to end, and then the encore is, your favorites. You know what I mean? Wish You Were Here, Comfortably Numb, Run Like Hell, you know? I mean, the Division Bell concert was my first concert. I was in third grade or fifth grade at the time in '94, and that I was at the vet, 20 rows away from the stage. I mean, one of these days I'll cut you in little pieces, start playing, and the pigs come out on each side, and it just blew me away, man. I was in, and that's what inspired me to start playing the guitar, yeah. And David Gilmour.
That really helps if you're on mushrooms. It really does.
Well, I'm sure I was pretty high because, you know, you get that contact high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw Pearl Jam with my mom, and then never had my mom before, but certainly did that night because I was sitting there, and we're like, oh no, it's like, oh shit, what's going on? And yeah, it was just a big cloud of smoke in that whole fucking building.
Oh yeah.
Not a good place to be.
I brought my dad to a Roger Waters concert when he did he was doing I think he was doing Dark Side of the Moon as well, but it was at the Tweeter Center. I don't remember much of it, but I got him so screwed up that everybody cleared a spot in the lawn to let him lay down, and everybody's coming over and they're like giving him like herbal remedies to get him back out of it because I just kept feeding him shit, dude. I thought he was gonna have a heart attack. I almost killed my father at a Roger Waters concert by getting him too fucked up.
No memory of it.
That's an
Good
experience I haven't had.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things I wish I didn't do with my dad, but that's, we went to two Roger Waters concerts, and that's one of the things I'm really happy I did. We had a good time.
Yep.
It's the good times you try to remember. You know what I mean? And then there are all the times that I've been trying to, hold on to, let go of all the bullshit. But
Yeah.
that's a story for another day. But that's one of my more fonder memories of me and my father
Well,
going out and doing something.
well, a lot of people live, for big shows and stuff. Not, and there's not. They're fewer and farther between these days. But
Sure are.
and then like here we are talking about our memories of it, and there's you know, time isn't infinite, and in 100 years nobody gives a shit, and I think that's great. I think it's great that it clears the space, but I wish there was culture moving into the space
Yes.
that
And there's
that I
nothing.
could groove with a little bit.
Yeah, I
People are
mean,
just
and
dickheads.
I honestly like what they're playing now, what people are getting into now. I don't understand it. I don't get it. There's no creativity or talent behind it. They're just sitting behind a computer. I mean, I can make a song right now with a program, and they got everything there. Just, all
Welcome
I
to the You Kids Get Off My Lawn podcast.
Yeah. I hate that argument where it's like, you hate the next generation's music, but it's not that because it's not music. It'd be different if it was like an artist. Like if I hated Taylor Swift that much, it'd be different. But I don't fucking.
Well-
She's not my style of music, whatever. But she's making music. When it's a fucking computer guy in a computer just going boop 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 boop, and you're like, that's not music.
Completely coming up in the heavy metal era.
Mhm.
And being a guitar player who toured, I aspired to all that stuff, and I practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. But honestly, my musical taste, I went to school, and I like the 1956 through 1960, almost 61 period of jazz, with the larger, quartets, quintets, but mostly really like Charles Mingus is like one of the greatest melody writers who ever lived, and I'm infatuated with horns and mostly saxophone players, and especially baritone sax players. And
with the big guy, the big saxophone.
yeah, man,
Yeah.
Ronnie Cooper is God, and um, but that's more related to like Radiohead or classical than modern pop radio.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was in I was in the school jazz band for a couple of years,
Yeah.
for percussion and violin, and that name you just said, I haven't heard that name in a long time. You just like
Yeah.
you just like jumble a bunch of cobwebs in my head, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember doing that.
Cobwebs are way better on mushrooms.
Better living through chemistry is what my father always used to tell me.
Yeah. There's two sciences, physics and chemistry. Too much chemistry, and you're going to learn physics pretty quick. Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. Oh shit. So
Yeah.
all right. Again, Way Off Topic Radio, everybody. Follow us on Twitter. It's just drop the A off the end of the radio because Twitter sucks my balls with their fucking stupid names. Phoenix, where can they find you at, buddy?
Phoenix West on Twitter.
Yes, they can.
Very simple.
And where can they find our good content at, bud?
liwstudios.com. Loitering in Wonderland on YouTube.
Right on. Now, Miles, do you have any music out there on iTunes or like a website that people can find your stuff at, buddy?
I actually do, but they probably heard some of it before.
Really?
Yeah, and
Like
I don't really want to get into all that so much, but
okay,
fair
enough. You don't have to get into it, buddy.
Indian song I want again.
What's that?
My heart will go on.
Actually, I used to be a Phil Collins stunt double. Yeah.
Nice. So
Yeah.
so really, Phil Collins can't play the drums. That was you up there.
Well, no, it was the falling down parts I had to do. I did pretty much the Chevy Chase stuff. Anytime he had to go downstairs.
Uh,
And peeing. Anytime he had to piss, I was the guy.
Stunt piss.
Yeah.
it's a piss taker.
So you were Phil Collins stunt cock. I mean, that is something to be proud of, man.
Yeah. Yes.
Phoenix,
Yep.
you have to hit it, buddy.
I do.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. I know we only had a couple minutes, but definitely check out the podcast pod on Twitter. We just did a few shows there, so make sure you catch them. They're coming up soon. And Miles here, he's going to be on it soon as well. And we also did a Twilight Zone review. That's LAW the TZ review. Check me and Phoenix out on both those shows.
So sexy. All of them.
Oh yeah.
Something
Yep.
like that. All right, guys.
All right. Take care, brother.
See ya.
Be
Later.
safe.
Yeah, I mean, like I normally never do podcasts with the webcam on. I really don't. But when me and him started doing it, it just kind of worked because it just works. Yeah. And everybody's like,
Yep.
well, sometimes it gets a little bit too like, Frank, they can't see what you're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, it works out pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
But like ICP, I mean, Missy's over there. We got Christian in Indianapolis, but I don't have the webcams on at all, And like Pez and I used to use the webcams when we first started doing the Way Off Topic together, because I just ran out of shit to say when I started this show by myself. But
Well-
it's been fun ever since with that. But we had such horrible chemistry. Like we've been talking to each other for like 25 years, but face to face, right? So
Yeah, right.
So you do it without being face to face, and all of a sudden, you don't know how to talk to each other. So we had
No,
to
it feels pressed too. It feels pressed because this is not the way that you're used to communicating, and it's completely. This is my so how many times have we connected here tonight? Just messing around with the technicalities and stuff. Maybe 3. So this is like my 5th video call in my life, and the other 2, we're on an old dial-up system.
So beep,
know?
booty. That
literally an 8-bit pixelated version of the person on the other end of the call
right.
on a little like a 4-inch screen. It's been 20 years.
I mean, like, like this is what I'm working with here. Here, I just, because I got this little 1080p Logitech guy. So yeah. So that's what I'm dealing with right now with the MacBook, right? That's what we're recording through. See, there you are, right? Then I got the Alienware, where I race with this beauty, right?
Yeah.
Like that. It's a Porsche GT3 RS. Now the listening audience can't see this, and too bad. Way off topic, radio, everybody. You should be used to this. And then that right there is wait, I went too far. There we go. That computer right there is where all my audio software is in. So,
Yeah, right.
So what I do is I record through the MacBook here, because it's got one of the best recorders on it. Then I just transfer it all to a SD card and pop it into that computer, put it through all the software shit, and sounds like we're in a recording studio. Because people ask,
right.
Because I get all the time, like, how do you get all these drivers to come to your recording studio in South Jersey? And I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, right.
They're like, well, what do you do? I'm like, it's Skype. They're like, this what? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, believe it or not. So, yeah, man.
So the podcasting is really interesting, and I really like the format, and it's become the way that I consume just about everything that I do consume. It's really hard to get me to sit down in front of a television, and recently I did sit down because someone told me to watch a specific episode of Black Mirror,
What'd you think?
and based on well, it was really ironic because I was actually complimenting him on his images. I have this friend in Denmark, and his images that he posts in his social media stuff, they always there's a deeper realism than real in all of his photos. And I just saw this image that he posted, and he did put some text with it, but it was nothing I'd ever seen, and I totally didn't get it. So I just complimented him, and I said, I've been meaning to ask exactly what you use. And he responded, are you fucking with me? And I was like, no. And he's like, man, you got to do this. Black Mirror, it's season 3, episode 1. Have you seen that?
Yeah, season 3, episode 1 would be. Hold on. Yeah. Well, speaking of Black Mirror, Pez and I just did 3 parts of a Black Mirror review.
And I saw that.
Oh, thank you.
I have not listened to it yet, but I saw that it was there.
Well, the way Pez and I now do the shows is I go over to his house and we put on lapel mics and we just basically do the review right there on the couch next to each other now. So it's been coming out really good. But the third season, I want to say.
Yeah.
What was the third season? Do you remember what the show is about? Like, if you just give me.
I don't remember the name of it, but
that's okay.
So it's all about social media, and how everything is based on likes, and the red-haired girl is the main character, and she's invited to be the bridesmaid at her friend's wedding.
Yep.
And I would just really hate to, and I'm sure that anybody that really would be mostly out there listening probably has already seen this long ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I would hate to spoil anything. But
no, go ahead, spoil it. If they haven't seen it yet, it's their fault.
He told me when I saw that scene that I would die laughing over what I had said. It was so ironic, and he was completely right. And I held my breath, and I can almost, see the words coming. It was almost like I could read what he had read coming up in the script, and it was pretty shocking. And honestly, it changed the way that I am. And I'm not a guy who, I like to burn down the internet. I don't like people liking their asses so much. And
right.
So, I'm pretty sarcastic and all, and I'm kind of wary of social constructs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, but it changed the way that I responded to other people's content, which I'll say most of the time is not even theirs. And even in the days after, I noticed there was a couple things trending, and I don't know how the topic got started, but I go down the trending issues on Facebook, and I run into this topic, and it was actually about the Facebook algorithm changing. And some people, it was, I wasn't amazed, but like there were 4 showing responses that people were like, well, I'm glad that it's down 4% usage or whatever. And this place is a bummer to me. And I told them that, like, I'm glad. I hope it fails. Honestly, I just go there because I've got 370 some odd people who I don't even know who think I'm great. It's an escape. And if it's going to be, if there's going to be an algorithm trying to change my life and make me think something or stay there or
there's an agenda behind it, definitely.
Be involved in political collusion with anything. I'm a guy who goes out and search for information, and then I'd make my own mind up.
Yep, same here.
So that's kind of, it's like being in jail. The one thing that really, really bothers me about Facebook is, well, sure, the first time I signed up, the terms of service were pretty simple. It was pretty open. And as time went on, well, they changed their terms of service, but you don't really get to choose because at some point they made it where you couldn't opt out and you couldn't close your account anymore. And at that point, you're just a slave because you're somebody's aggregate, and you're how much they can charge. You know, people who are just going to charge you more to buy their shit.
Exactly. I mean that's why I like Twitter so much, because it's you can whatever you're into, you can find other like-minded people that are into the same thing you are,
Yep,
and there's
it's
really
pure.
not much, like, yeah, because like Facebook, it's like you say one thing that's your opinion, you get 20 other people that I didn't ask what your opinion was, but I'm going to get it because they can just do whatever they want. And then
And
you
it's
say,
not.
I wasn't saying it to you, and then now I got to defend myself to you when my opinion was not directed towards you at all. It's my opinion, I'm entitled to it, and fuck you for thinking that I'm an asshole for having it. I mean, who the fuck are you? That's how.
Well,
And Facebook just has the one good thing about Facebook, and I'll tell you this: the reason I created a Facebook account, literally the only reason I did, is because I found out that I have an older brother by a year and a half.
yeah,
He found my sister through Facebook when it first started. Right, my sister had an account, he had an account, I didn't. So I made up an account and put threw a picture or two on there just so he could see what I look like and a little bit about me before he just talks to me. Right. So
yeah.
so then we talked first on the phone, and then when we met, at least we knew what each other looked like. You know what I mean? And so there's one of those rare, like, good stories that Facebook. But I'm talking, this was 10 years ago, you know?
Sure. Well, I I would just say that like everything, a pitchfork, a hammer, a telephone, a warm sandwich, everything has a good usage. You can find a positive way to use anything.
Yep.
But then again, we don't go there on our own volition and then expect the things just in our realm. So much crap is forced, and like you're talking about people with opinions, it's not just opinions. Uh, they'll take anything negative
Yep.
that is negative towards the thing they're negative towards, and they'll open up that thread as a platform for them to talk on this whole other issue. So you get people can't even stay on topic, and it's even worse in these days when people don't have a level of concentration that goes beyond a soundbite or
Right.
less, because
Or,
now it's not even a soundbite. It's a headline written backwards to make the soundbite into clickbait,
yep.
so you'll
It's
sell
totally agenda
another
driven.
Mercury.
Yep. I agree with you
So
100%.
so we are technological slaves to this thing, and to be fed. Going back to just for a moment to that episode of Black Mirror. So halfway to her journey, her screwed up journey to her friend's wedding, who is not her friend. She's just somebody who abused her,
Yep.
but kept her around. When the lady truck driver picks her up and basically tells her to tell the whole world to fuck off, and that's happiness.
Yep. Which she learned at the end. And see, that's why they've compared Black Mirror so much to The Twilight Zone. The Twilight
Yeah,
Zone has always been a show that if somebody is too into themselves, into their work, into whatever, right? They're letting
yeah,
something drag them down that they shouldn't. The Twilight
yeah,
Zone will pay them for it. They'll punish
yes,
them for it, right?
yes,
Black Mirror follows that same concept. Not every episode, and to be honest with
right,
you, um, the episode that you saw is probably one of the weakest ones as far as social media goes, and and like the future ethics that will have to be faced to make within the
yeah,
next 10 to 20 years. That episode was probably the weakest. Now, if you want some really good advice, uh, White Christmas, season 2, which is the
Yeah,
last one, fourth one.
yeah,
That's one of the best ones I could tell you to watch. First off, the other one would be season 4 called Shut Up and Dance. That one is so fucked up
yeah.
that you'll like that one. That one's trippy. Um, I mean, even season 1, episode 1 is just fucking crazy,
Yeah,
right?
I actually read somebody's blog that had uh like a voted best episodes
Uh huh.
across all seasons, and I just bookmarked it, but I used it to just get a general feel for what other people had to say about the series. And I'm like I said, I don't watch TV. I don't like to get trapped by episodic things that make me try to become a member of the family. But I
Which,
like that the
yeah.
episodes are in whole.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the other thing is, because I saw that episode first, and I've only watched the very next episode after that. Um,
Which was
because I, which
the video game
is the
one?
one about the guy that goes around the world touring to get away
Yep.
from his mother after his father's death.
Yep.
Um, and
That was
and
awesome.
honestly, and it was really good. But it was more that it was good in a shocking, twisty kind of way. Where
Yes.
the other thing, I walked away from that season 3, episode 1. I walked away from that episode uh, with a complete understanding of the intention of what is the Black Mirror and what the concept of Black Mirror is, and it's it's the darkest reflection of oneself, um, expressed in ways about technologies, and how
And
we'll lose
yep.
all the reality that is us, because especially being in the music business for so long, you know, it's not just synthesizers and samplers. It becomes algorithms that write rhythms and concoctions where people press a button and spin a couple knobs and just kind of turn things till it sounds like that sounds pretty groovy, man. But the whole thing is, it's artifice. And honestly, if you go back a couple of generations, you know, uh, like we travel in the air on aluminum carriages, and if you go back, uh, you know, communications, real communications, it's just two people talking. It's weird to converse. At some point, they had to wake up a guy and put him on a horse with a letter, but these days we're we live in a completely artificial world, and even the food, half of it's, you know, a concoction of a bunch of chemicals that make the compounds that taste like a strawberry.
Yep.
You know?
But yeah, it ain't strawberry.
No.
Yeah, I mean strawberry smoothie. The strawberry banana smoothies I drink all the time. The only thing that's real in it is the banana because I watch them drop a real banana into it. But whatever else they pour into it, there's no strawberries in that.
Sinoglutal acicide. So,
Yep. High
and I've
fructose
got
corn syrup, baby.
I've got no problem with eating a chemical, out of a can. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that so much. I worry about accidental human annihilation through a virulent strain of flu that jumps species, and we've really got 8 seasons, because down south the seasons happen in an order that's 2 seasons off. So the flu goes around the world twice a year, and
Yep.
strike one could be one thing that takes out 1 billion people, and then by the time it comes around again, it's changed so much that nobody can do anything. And you have to wonder where all the damn Mayans went.
Well, it's just like the Black Plague. It's just like, or not the Black Plague, the Spanish Plague. The Spanish Plague
Yeah,
circled three times. The reason being is because when it became winter, it died out. But then when it became spring again, it started its way around again. Well, like
sure.
here in Jersey, we have 2 seasons now. We don't have 4. We have winter, then summer, then winter, then summer.
Yeah,
That's it.
right,
Yeah.
right. And we get what seems like an extended fall into a short winter here, but in southern Georgia,
Hmm.
but also uh, I, I really the it's I mean I went out to the store today and I must have saw 20 people that probably shouldn't have been in public. They were making all kinds of snorting, coughing, wheezing noises and just kind of see them rubbing their face on their sleeve, and you're thinking, God,
Trust
I
me,
need to
drives
get
me
to
nuts,
a
man.
soap dish.
It drives me nuts, man. Like, I mean, because I work in supermarkets every day, and like
Yeah,
I'm breathing the air that probably 2,000 people breathe a day. And it's just, I'm constantly washing my hands. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the flu like airborne? Can't that be airborne? Some of it, some of
well,
the strains.
well, the way it goes is, I mean, you touch your face, and you pick up the virus that's come from it goes to town on your mucous membranes, and it
Hmm.
gets into you that way, and that's the way you express it through moisture from your body. So your sweaty hands touch your eyes and nose and ears and mouth, and then you touch a door handle, and it won't live like that for long, but it'll live for as long as that moisture keeps it over a certain temperature, and then it's got a very short time. But uh
Yep.
so when someone coughs, I don't know if you've ever seen that backlit with really strong light on a black background. When
Oh yeah.
someone coughs, it's fantastic, the waterfall of spew.
Oh, it's just this
It's
giant cloud of nastiness. I mean,
Yeah, it's
and
like,
li- and like a sneeze, it's 10 times worse at 1,000
oh,
miles an hour.
it's tremendous. It's tremendous.
Yep. Yep.
But
I, I haven't touched a doorknob in a shop right or really any public restroom in so many years. I use my elbows or whatever.
oh yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. I've got
What
a I've
like
got
whenever I
I've got a
cough,
bad
it's
foot.
it's like great like that.
Oh
Like
yeah,
that's the one thing they don't teach people. Like when you're supposed to cough, you're not supposed to cough in your hands. You're supposed to cough into your arm.
that's
I
right.
mean, anybody that's been on a cruise line's taught that. But why aren't we taught that in freaking school?
Well, yep. There's a polite way of putting the back of your hand up to your mouth and it away from people. That gives
That
a
just
little more
pushes it that
protection,
way.
maybe.
Yeah,
But
it just
it looks good on like a '60s late night TV show, I guess. Is
well,
the way it used to do it.
we are not far removed that if a nuke drops, just duck and cover.
Uh, yeah, man. I used to, I lived through a time where we had, you know, uh, air raid sirens and alerts and all kinds of
During
all
the
kinds of things
Conrad
when I was a
system,
kid.
right?
Huh? It was
During
it was a lot of
the
fun. It was
yeah,
a lot of fun.
it was called the Conrad system, right?
Yeah. Well, look, hey, let me tell you what. I preferred living under fear of the bomb to the way cultures slid in the last, it's been my whole lifetime. Honestly, I was born in 1964, and in those next couple of years, shit started going downhill. A lot of it's got to do with the government controlling finances. Um, but when the rich get richer, a lot of times it's inflationary pressures that make people really feel it at the market, and they think the rich are getting richer directly off them, but it's not. It's subsidies and all these other things. And once you throw half the rules out, you might as well throw them all out. Is what I guess the government,
Yeah, I
at
mean,
least you know.
Yeah. If we start killing the rich in this country even more, they're going to leave, and we're going to be in a
Well,
lot of trouble.
well, the fact is, you know, and a lot of people don't know exactly how to define rich, and a lot of people think just because somebody's driving like a decent Mercedes that
That's
that
not
person's
rich.
rich. But
It's
man,
the guy who pays
you know,
him.
it's 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 people that we don't even have access to see
Nope.
and know. And society really needs to back off of the class warfare stuff. We're all, if I know people who make lots of money and they are not tremendously wealthy. It's hard to
Or
understand.
good people in the first place.
Well, I don't really know a lot of shitty people because I've called those people from my life, but I know a lot of people who make a lot of money, but they actually they their business is their life, and they fold all that money back in amounts that really, like, well, that's, you know, you just bought yourself a job. You know, it's like that's just like you just pay yourself a wage, like you're working for somebody else. But it's I've got some people in my family who do things that are pride in the business kind of things,
Yeah.
and they do it for benefits other than the money when it comes down to it. And it appears to be one thing from the outside, but if you're on the inside and you see what really happens, you realize that they're not stinking rich. And stinking rich, dirty, rotten, filthy, stinking motherfucking rich is like you're now talking about people with like $500 million for no reason, and people who have numbers that I and man, I've been working on math stuff a lot lately, and I don't even know what those numbers are. Too many zeros. Just
I mean, it's like people like Elon Musk, right?
yeah.
Billions and billions and billions. Like, I mean, he sold PayPal for like 23 billion when he was like 15. So, you know what?
Huh.
I mean, and he has so much money he doesn't know what to do with. So what does he do? He spends all of his money into the betterment of the human race after he's gone. And
Well,
people
I,
talk so much shit on this guy,
but
and
but
I'm
I
like,
but I'll tell you what. He gets massive subsidy, and he chooses businesses to go in based on who he can force to be his partner because of regulatory things that either exist already or things that he, without a lot of tampering, he doesn't ever go like a hard path. He chooses something that's really easy because there's a lot of
shooting
built-in.
rockets to space ain't easy, brother.
No. But if you're a man that has the ability to finance it to a point where you don't have to find partners, but there are things inside of the government that you can use as a tool to, it's not, he does, and you're right, but it's not necessarily for the betterment of man. It's for the interest of Elon Musk. That's what he's interested in. That's one of the things about the pride in business kind of thing. I'm not saying that he's like a bad guy,
Oh no, I'm
but
not saying. Yeah.
I'm not saying that Elon Musk is a bad guy. That'd be silly. And I have I was alive during Apollo. I actually stood on Daytona Beach and watched Apollo 11 leave. Then we went home and watched them land on the moon. So I go back that far, and I've complained my whole life that um, a, a government program's not the way to throw money into space by the trillions. It's that industry would come along. I've always thought that private entities should be able to reap the rewards and return them to the people instead of taking it out of our paychecks and blasting into space a lot. And I'm a huge astronomy fan. But I'm not
So am
really
I.
much. I'm not really much for like a planetary space program. I'm for something that's much more massive than a planetary space program. Actually, what I'd like to do is I'd like to see a large array of telescopes, both radio and optical, down the backside of the moon.
Yeah,
From
it's
pole
like,
to pole.
yeah, like,
Literally, there's a way that you take.
well,
Radio
they kind of
telescope.
do. I mean, they just don't show you the pictures. They have like 3 different satellites orbiting the moon right now.
Yeah, but what I mean is something that's larger than an Earth-based radioscope, because with 1/6 the gravity, you can have a lot more mass that swings freely. But have a couple of scopes like that are literally 1,000-meter wide radioscopes, and see.
Well, you figure we would have to colonize the. We would have to like have a serious. I mean, to put them on the moon, we would have to be on the moon to put them on the moon, right?
Elon Musk could that they could easily right now launch missions to the moon. The only thing they don't have is
they're going
probably
to.
a lander. But yeah, but a lot of this stuff could be launched and be autonomous and land and be met by. I mean, I'm not talking about something that can happen in a year, and it maybe wouldn't even be able to be planned and completed in my lifetime. But my point is, this thing called interferometry. You take scopes, radio telescopes for the most part, that are spaced by many miles of distance, however far, and
Kind of like the contact array. Like
well,
in a movie.
when you combine the signals of these things and you get them phased properly, where it's the time of arrival in the data is lined up between all the scopes. If we use scopes here on Earth plus big ones on the moon, it actually increases the size to be as if the scope was 250,000 miles wide. And that just creates a huge efficiency, so we could really see with great acuity into the depths of time, so far that if you can't see the dawn of time with that, you should just give up. It's too hard.
Well, I mean, like personally, like I think the whole big thing why it hasn't happened is because the amount of money that would take to happen. But that's why Elon Musk is he designed all the the reusable boosters and everything, and that cuts so much money down.
And it does.
And that's why they're going to go to the moon and start colonizing that. And Mars.
That man will find every efficiency that he can find, so they can do it as inexpensively as possible.
Precisely.
And create a lot of value in it, where NASA has not done that. And government programs generally fail in the end. They fail to meet the goals, the standards, the wishes, the will. The biggest thing about government stuff is it's really hard to get it going, and it's really easy to stop it. And it's easy to fund it in a lot of ways, where people say, no, it's so hard to get funding. But no, it's not that hard, because what they end up doing is most of the funding, it's put aside and then it gets spent on something else because the project gets scrapped. It's just like with the super collider we were building in Texas, and I don't know how many billions of dollars they spent digging the hole, and then the next Congress shut down the project, and they spent just as much filling the hole back in.
Yep, you gotta love it.
How
long ago was that?
Yeah, and for 2.5 decades, we've had a low Earth orbit space program that keeps, for a while it was just about crashing shit into Mars, as far as the planetary thing goes. But a lot of the planetary science missions are kind of trivial, and they do them in stages instead of trying to get it all done at once, where they're going to have to beg for more funding 3 more times, because they'll send something to, Cassini, the Cassini probe recently, crashed into Saturn.
Yep.
To protect the moons. There's so much data, and that was a good mission, but some of the things, they just go repetitively, and there'll be another mission after Cassini that does an incremental thing, and another that does an incremental thing. And for so many years here lately, we've been sending a lot of probes to Mars, but the fact is, if you ask the questions, what do you know about Mars? What do you know about the soil, and what do you know about the things? It's like, well, we can't know that about organics because we didn't plan this mission to have that capability. And so it's
did you hear the new stuff that came out that the latest rover, what it scooped up and tested, whatever kind of chemical or whatever they found in the soil can only be produced by some like cataclysm, like anomaly or whatever, and they're trying to say that Mars used to be inhabited and everything, and then they kind of just blew themselves up. I think personally that now that's really convenient information right now, isn't it?
well, the latest things that I've heard are that Mars lost its atmosphere millions and millions of years before they had thought it did. And there's another problem that nobody ever talks about, and that's all the charged particles that the sun bombards planets with that we don't get to enjoy as cancers.
Because of the atmosphere.
There's certain chemical things that happen, and there's a group of chemicals called perchloriates, and they're related, I believe, to ammonias and some salts, metals, salts, heavy stuff. And
Yep.
Perchloriates are they're poisonous, and the soil is very granular and poisonous.
Yeah, it's very metallic, and that's why it's red, because it's rusty. And why is it rusty? Because it's metallic.
Well, lots of particle bombardment.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have a magnetic field, and people don't understand that you can't we don't have a way, and it's not just a technology. You wouldn't have the means by which to create a magnetic field that would protect a planet so you could terraform it. Terraform is a nice science fiction idea, and it's fun to think that you could just, turn farts into oxygen.
Well, it's methane, so all we got to do is add a little bit of oxygen, CO2, and look, an atmosphere. It doesn't work that way.
The solar wind it takes it away. It takes the atmosphere away so fast, and there's nothing to protect you from all those charged particles, which are the things that have created a lot of problems with astronauts. In fact, some of the only real problems besides atrophy in the muscles and your bone density loss, a lot of the problems are charged particles. And the early guys that were even not on full orbits, and Gemini and Mercury, they reported that they would see bright flashes even with their eyes closed, and that was charged particles.
Yep.
And
The Apollo pilots said that they close their eyes, they could still see dots and stuff.
yeah, and they discovered that there's something that happens to people's vision after spending a long period in space,
Being
and
X-rayed to death.
it doesn't seem to ever clear up.
Yeah,
And I'm not sure what that's all about, but it's just what I've heard.
But I mean, yeah. But then you see Buzz Aldrin walking around. Look how old he is, and all these other astronauts are just healthy as they could be. You know, none of them have cancer. None of them have anything. It's just like, I think you should by now.
I think the best punch I've ever seen is Buzz Aldrin wailing on that guy that came up and told him to admit that they lied.
With the Bible in his hand?
To the moon. Huh?
With the Bible in his hand?
Yeah, man,
he went up to every astronaut he could find and did the same thing. I think he got hit like 5 times.
Well, I don't know why people even argue with that. I don't.
There's these people out there that they just need to. They're like the dumb flat earthers. They need to find some sort of conspiracy and everything, and then if you can't prove it to me with my own eyes, then I'm not going to believe it. Bullshit.
I can't believe that the flat Earth. I think that's a put on. I think it's a joke, and I think maybe a few people get caught up like on the periphery of it, but honestly, to be able to look out at the moon and to look at the sun and to look at pictures of other planets and go, well, those are spheres. Why the fuck would the Earth be flat? And, the background stars would all be changing because to achieve this thing that looks and feels like gravity, the thing would have to be accelerating at 1G up. So it's elevators all the way down.
Yeah,
Turtles and elevators.
It's just insanity. It really is. Phoenix and I went on a whole thing about this about 2 weeks ago, and he was so triggered about it. It was crazy. It was funny. We were watching this YouTube clip from Stefan. It's called Freedom Rain. I don't know how. I wish I could plug this guy because he's great. It's I'll have to send you. And he has a flat earther come on, and for like an hour, the flat earther tries to tell him his story, and Steph is just destroying everything he says. Man, it's hysterical. It was really good stuff. I mean, I wish it was short enough I could play it, but it's just too long.
The most cringy thing that I've ever heard in my life is a show that's put on by the Merseyside Skeptics in the UK, called Be Reasonable? The Be Reasonable podcast, and they get crank anchors on, but are completely respectful. This guy Mike Marshall is the host, okay. and sometimes these shows, I guess they go like an hour and a half, and he'll have somebody talk about faith healing for an hour and a half, and I've heard the guy talk in a group of peers, and he goes fucking out of his mind, but with English respect, that British teeth finger, he just sits there and takes every bit of it and is just as nice as he can be to these people because he lets them talk out of their own dissonance. And, they prove themselves wrong.
Yeah, if you give them enough rope, they'll hang themselves with this crap.
It's exactly right.
Because their whole theory and basis is to bully you and to prove you wrong, or at least try to. And somehow proving one thing wrong, sort of, justifies another thing being right, sort of, makes sense. Well, 2 double negatives don't make a positive.
No, and I'd point out that usually it's not somebody on the other side of an issue that changes your mind. It's somebody who agrees with everything you believe in that suddenly lets on that they came to that conclusion by some odd reasoning that isn't reason at all.
No.
And that's when you realize that maybe you made a mistake somewhere.
Yeah.
And you start thinking about things differently. It's, people think that critical thinking is something that it's not. And critical thinking requires that a person be educated on the subjects and also pretty dynamic. You have to be able to consider other things that are relative to a thing, how that would affect it. And, like working with electricity, you have to, it's like a signal. It's like a flow. It's like if you look at a flow chart, you can figure out where you're losing volts somewhere and by how much, if you kind of have an idea of what you'd be looking for. And you can't go out armed with nothing and just start thinking that you're thinking critically.
Yep. I have an employee that thinks every troubleshooting call is Murphy's Law.
Right.
But that's because he doesn't understand what the fuck he's doing.
Right. Right. It's, yep. And it kind of comes down to, a guy with a hammer thinks every problem's a nail.
Exactly.
It's fun to get out of that head. I like exploring. I think everybody should. You should be able to, and also, I can be a very offensive person, and I'm not easily offended. There's some things that offend me 0 to 60 in 0.6 seconds. But again, I can stand there and take that. Because there are no wrong answers. I want to know all the possibilities. And I'll choose. We should all be critical.
Like, even with the flat earth thing, I went, you know what? Let me hear their argument. Who knows? You never know. I'm an opinion guy. And I listened to it, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not this stupid.
It's bizarre. It's like, it's one of those things that, like, you try to sit down for it, and it's almost as hard to listen to as a guy talk to his mother about sex.
Oh God. Don't bring that back up to me.
Seriously.
Podcast pilot, everybody.
Yeah, which I by the way, I binged the whole series last night, and I'm damaged. Yeah. Yep, but I'm not triggered. I'm not triggered. The fact that I could sit through that episode proves that I am one of the grossest fucking people to ever have lived.
That doesn't say much about me and Phoenix being as we're the ones that did it.
You guys, you're just like, you're pushing trash, man. that was some crazy shit.
It really was, dude. It was insane.
Mommy.
And that's the great thing about that show is it just kind of happens the way it is because we don't plan it that way. We just kind of deal with what we got to deal with, and we try to make it funny and entertaining. But some things just trigger us, like that one show on the Alien show. That one dude triggered me so fucking bad. Oh, I was so upset about it. And then the chick, like if we're doing a podcast right now, right, and you just get up and go to do something, and I'm like, I don't know where Miles went, but right on. Then you come back, and like, Miles, where were you? I got antsy, so I got up. Like, what? We're 30 minutes in.
Yeah. The lady can't sit for an hour.
It's like look, it's like, listen, Toots, when they ask you, do you want to do the podcast? Yeah, that's when you say no. Missy has never in 165 episodes gotten up from ICP and just walked out. Ever.
Yeah, right. Well,
ever.
if you can't be attentive to a topic for a period long enough to have a conversation, just a normal conversation. It's all all these things are just conversations. Some of them are more professionally considered and mapped out, and other things are off the cuff. But
Yep.
what kind of attention to detail do you think that she's capable of? And honestly, you know, most people draw their respect based on their something that they can pay attention to and serve the details. You know, you have to be able to, meet that demand. And half the people, half the people can't even sit in uncomfortable shoes. It's like, hey, I used to be forced to go to church as a kid,
Oh
you
god.
know, and man, and they were comfortable shoes, but they were never comfortable in church. But I had to sit there, and uh, the sitting in church part, it, the sitting part probably did me some good because, respectfully and with great patience, I can now sit through, you know, a function that's part of a duty that I have without feeling like it's like, this is a moment of my life and it's important that I'm here,
Yep.
whether it's just a political thing or support for somebody at a wake or whatever,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, the next week I gotta spend 32 hours sitting there learning about shit that I will never deal with again in my life, but I gotta do it to keep my electrical license, and, you know, it's okay. I'll get through it. It's whatever.
Wow,
Yeah, done
man,
done it before.
that 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 makes me think a little bit about an education uh, thing that I have a problem with. You know, um, I think I think that people should generally live a while and understand what they're going to have to be learning when they start learning things in a controlled way, school in general. Uh, and
Per
so
Personally, oh, I'm sorry,
I
guys.
think it's good for people to have a living background before, because a kid doesn't even know what it's like. Sure, something about right angles and something I remember, but I don't really know it. And it's like, I wish I could figure out the distance on this thing versus that thing. And it's like, wow, that thing that you weren't ready to understand and your teacher didn't know how to explain to a child. If you remembered that right now, you could figure out that on a piece of paper, just knowing two measurements. It's like, wow, you know, people say, oh, I'll never use that again in my life with like algebra stuff. And then, you know, they're doing simple tasks that they go, I wonder how you do this. And it's like, wow, if you
Yep.
only had algebra, but you
Exactly. I
just
mean,
did, but you just don't know you need it. I threw away so much of my education just based on staring intently at the numbers and trying to figure out exactly what it would ever be useful for. And
yeah.
later in life, I found a use for it, so I started taking a math degree. You know,
How did you do?
pretty good. My problem is that I was doing some astronomy things. Honestly, the next thing up was planetary science, and I had to take some biology. But it's not just biology; it's this planetary biology stuff. And I got to tell you, man, they haven't found biology on other on other uh, stellar bodies or
Or at
anywhere
least haven't
else.
admitted to it.
So well, it's a thing that doesn't exist, and
So
so
how
I
can they
just have
teach
to,
it?
you know, because it's a thing they can add in the curriculum. It's like homeopathic medicine. They just bottle up some water with an undetectable less than a molecule of the so-called active ingredient, and
Hmm.
and the reason they can sell it to you is because it's not regulated right now, and they deem it, that's not going to end up in court with a bunch of people dead from drinking a glass of water. It's just something they can sell to you for $22 that won't kill you.
Yep, yep. And like, and like getting back to what you, and like that really worked great for Steve Jobs, by the way.
Uh,
Ugh, God, there's a perfect example of how that is just bullshit.
well, man, again, I straddle times. I feel like I've been five people in my life because of the way that things have changed. But being in the business that I was in, I was always at the cutting edge of the technologies, and I could always know what was coming because that we had to stay up on what was coming. It was huge advantage over competition and just efficiency to be able to use new technologies, even though most of the time, looking back on it, we spent half the time fixing things to make them work in the dawn of it.
Yeah.
But looking back and all of these changes, people, again, we're back to the artifice of people wanting to accept miracles, and this is new. You don't understand. What's the freaking thing with the pomade or Palm Wonderful, that freaking cranberry drink they were saying with all the antioxidants and stuff?
How great
cut down on your
pomegranates are for you?
chances of a pomegranate. Yeah, that crap.
Yeah, right.
And it'll cut your chance of cancer. I mean, the federal government actually went after a freaking beverage for claiming that it does all this, magic shit. And man, and because of the era I come from, honestly, I'm not going to prolong my life. I realized that the last years are the hard ones, and I'm going to die old-timey. I'm going to die old-timey death. When they tell me something's wrong, that's it. And I won't have to rely on magic or special powers or anything. But the other thing I don't want to do is I don't want myself to have to face my loved ones in a way that would they remember me for however long they have left as, going through so much other shit. It'll just be, either I'll be in an accident or something will take me pretty quick, because honestly, that stuff doesn't matter to me. Life matters to me a lot. I love this. Like I said, I love exploration. But it's not worth whatever it cost. That's probably what I'm saying. And that's in always. It's not worth the money that it costs. It's not worth the heartache. And
right.
I've lost a fair amount of friends here in the last few years to natural causes, and none of them pretty at all. But
never is.
The couple that went really quick, I felt like that was a blessing for them and their families. And even though, man, it was harsh pain to deal with, we're finite. We are time and space, and it's a short time and a pretty damn big space.
It's very true. Very true. I mean, like that one picture from Voyager 1, was it, where they turned it around last second?
Yeah, man. Pale blue dot.
Yeah, you see that? That's and that just kind of really put things in perspective, didn't it?
It's a wonderful sentiment, and it's amazing what can be accomplished, but also what can be accomplished should not be construed into this everything's possible. It's
and well, and getting to the exploration and like the technology and everything, it just seems like we're going backwards, and I think technology is forcing us to go backwards, and as far as social evolution.
Well, I'm worried that it's not backwards. I'm worried that it's more, instead of going backwards, it's going into oblivion.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah, definitely.
it it
People don't
just
know how to talk to each other anymore.
yeah, and honestly, I wish I had a better vocabulary, but not to confuse people with big words like uh, a legal document or politician, but so I can inspire people to understand that the reason that there's so many words for a similar thing is that there's different degrees of all these things, and it's in a way of being very specific. And this is something that I get out of writing music, and especially working on somebody else's music. When somebody gives me a song and I have to do rewrites, I I have to know their intention, and I have to crystallize some of those thoughts. Some of it gets too wordy maybe, and I have to cut that, but I have to make it mean what it means even more, the most. Every word counts, and people people don't use nuance pretty much anymore. We're
Right.
we're so fast, and everybody's a motherfucker, you know?
Ain't that the
Seriously,
truth?
on this motherfucking plane.
It really is. It's like, and if you're not just as much of a motherfucker, you get left behind, or you get shit on, one of the two, or both.
Yeah, and then you have to you you're you're forced to you're forced to give up any nuance you had to be a part of it. And that's
If you wish to be, that is.
and again, it's kind of the lesson of that episode of Black Mirror. You know, what you've given up to become this, that's to become something that's it's inhuman. It's
Yeah, I'm.
dehumanizing. We're
Mhm.
dehumanizing ourselves. And just 400 years ago, really started an era of enlightenment. And you know, uh, the Dark Ages were a time when a lot of that had happened previously. People had, started creating uh, modern civilizations and technologies, but suddenly Europe just went batshit.
To say the least.
They lost their mind to the ages, and
Oh yeah.
it turned into there be dragons here, and that's what's really happening. But the thing of it is, the next the next the next big everything is an imprint created by an algorithm, and we're back to the artifice and how it's very unfulfilling. And even though you can take great pride in posting an image of what your machine did for you today, to complete that same task over 6 months with your hands is much more rewarding, because there's a journey involved where the pride is ingrained in you. You built it, and you know,
You know what? My great, like right there.
yeah,
Definitely want to have you on again to go deeper into,
absolutely,
and we need to watch a few Black Mirror
no,
episodes, I think,
absolutely,
together. But what you just said right there, I just want to say um, that right there, what you just said of busting your ass, working hard for it, and when it finally pays off in the end, you appreciate it that much more, right?
yeah,
Parker Thompson did that yesterday. He finally got his ride for Pro Mazda. He's back with the same team that he was with USF 2000 last year. The
yeah,
kid the kid was devastated. I mean, he's a good friend of ours. I mean, we've been behind him for 4 years now.
right,
Um, I mean, I have a good eye for like naturally talented racers,
Talent. Yeah.
and I watched him racing in Mid Ohio 4 years ago in his first rookie year for JDC, and I was like, he either like he set up a pass probably 3 turns ahead, and where he did it, you don't make up those. You don't do that. Like you have to have some serious stones on you to try to do that. And you know you need to do it perfect for it to happen. And he did it. And I looked at Missy and I went, "You see what he just did there?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was teaching her, and I'm like, "He either did that on purpose, and if he did, I need to find this kid, or he just got lucky." Right?
Yep.
So, so after the race, we go and find him, and I asked him. I said, "Did you know?" It was because I remember the lap and everything, and I was like, "Over at turn 3, did you set up that pass on turn 6 at turn 3 on purpose?" And he gave me this big smile. He goes, "You caught that?"
Yeah. Right. Well,
And yeah,
human reflexes are not fast enough to do a lot of these. You get your motor coordination, and it becomes not just a second nature; it's a first nature.
exactly,
Your mind reacts in front of you, and it's almost like you process it as an appraisal of what you've just done instead of what you're going to do. Like
exactly,
you set up an intention, but the minute reflexes and little movements as a musician, I know this all too well, especially when you're playing something at a super fast tempo and it's really dense notes, and it's across a couple of different keys, to a point you can't consider what's happening there. But there's this weird thing where literally it does feel like time slows, and
yep,
your brain goes out in front of you,
yeah,
and it's
yeah, exactly,
and it's almost like it's almost like you're the closest spectator, and
E- and
you can see that, and that's in anything anybody ever does. That's people that when you say I notice talent, you just notice that zone, that place, and a person who knows how to harness that, and it's a lock in thing, man. That's awesome.
yeah,
That's
man,
really awesome. That's awesome that guy can do that, and
yeah.
I really envy uh race car drivers.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, I mean, like we've had so many. Like, I mean, Christian has been on our show for over a year now, and
Yeah.
he's our official third mic now, and he's got natural talent of racing. He's done some really great things. It's just
Yeah.
he wasn't born rich, and
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Right.
in today's day and age, you got to be that too. But he's trying his hardest. I mean, Willie T. Ribbs forwarded his book. His book's out for a third run, so it's a great book too, man. I mean, he's a two-time veteran of the Iraq War over there. And the book dives into that too. The book's just not about racing. The book's about his entire life, and that man's been through so much. I don't respect anybody more than Christian. I really don't. And the guy's amazing. He's
Yeah.
really cool. Really great dude. Um,
Yep.
but and I really hope nothing but the best. And Christian has a few things going where I really think we're going to be seeing him next year. Nothing concrete, but and then I'm really proud of the audible flagging system. Trans Am signed for a multi-year deal, so Trans Am's now the safest racing series in the world. You know,
Cool.
all the injuries and deaths in racings for the last 40 years, 88% have been secondary incidents. This notable flagging system that Missy and I have been fully invested in pushing, promoting. I mean, we're part of the process with Dave, and all of a sudden, as soon as Trans Am announced it, guess who we have a meeting with next week? The FIA. So as soon as, like I kept telling Dave, stop worrying about who cares or who thinks what. It's the people who matter who think what. Right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
Dave, once the first domino falls, all the rest of them will fall suit because nobody wants to look dumb. You know?
Yep.
So we're really looking forward to that too, and it's a work in progress, but hopefully in the next couple of years, because Justin Wilson, that should have never happened. Um, and we'll get into that the next time we talk, man. That's a long story, but but anyway, Miles, thanks for coming on, man. It's been a lot of fun
Absolutely,
chatting
Frank.
with you, man. Looking forward to having you on the podcast. Podcast, how Phoenix likes to do it, and
God.
I can't wait to hear the three shows you come up with, and definitely check it out. If you're on Twitter, it's at the podcasts pod. Links there for the show. Same with LIW, it's the Twilight Zone review. If you're into that show, which if you're into Black Mirror, you should definitely be in the Twilight Zone because they're one and the same, just one's in color basically, and deals with modern times. And uh, pretty much I'm Links on Twitter, and ICP podcast, and this is Wave Up Radio. Just drop the A. Are you on Twitter, Miles?
I am not.
You should definitely check it out. I mean, it's a little bit hard to get used to. It looks like chaos at first, but
Nope.
but what? But,
It's just down to my privacy issue and the
and
and
that's why I love
where
it,
a lot of
'cause-
where a lot of people go for their outlet for the Twitter sort of thing. I have an inside group of people where we actually just talk.
well, yeah, you
So
know,
it just kind of
and that's the great thing. I just want to shout William Hamby out for his 1911 to present IndyCar group. I mean, he made me a moderator for it, and I'm really proud to be that because of I mean, we've got so many legends in there and current IndyCar drivers and IndyCar fans, and we run a tight ship, man. If you're negative, you're out. If you start talking about something that's not IndyCar related, we'll give you a warning like, yo, man, keep it within the boundaries. We're all here to have fun, talk about IndyCar in a positive light. We can debate about stuff, that's fine, but you respect everybody that's in there, and if not, you get one warning, and if you do it again, you're out. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's what's really cool about some of the groups on Facebook, and I do agree with you there.
yeah.
So, I mean, are you part of the group there?
No, no, mm-mm.
Yeah,
No.
you should definitely join, man. A lot of good stuff about IndyCar, of the future and everything, and a lot of people just, well, like I said, it's just good stuff. So, and
Yeah.
I'm moderator, so just join up. I'll approve you.
Hey, man.
But yeah, it's getting pretty late. I mean, you're where I keep forgetting where you're at. Oh yeah,
I'm down. I'm
yeah,
down in
Georgia,
Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you're on the East Coast with me, man. I'm right outside Philly in South Jersey. So it's about what is it about like? Yeah, it's about 4 o'clock on a
4
Saturday.
a.m.
That's about normal for me. I don't normally sleep during the weekend.
Two
I mean,
minutes to an ocean midnight
there you go, man.
somewhere.
Exactly. And I mean, I honestly I don't have to be up till 6 tomorrow anyway. So
Yeah.
go Birds. So all right. Uh, until
Oh, is there a sporting event tomorrow?
just a little one. Just a little,
All
just
right.
a little, just a little teeny tiny sporting event.
All right.
Super
Go
Bowl.
Braves, I guess.
Yeah, maybe they'll get back there. Who knows?
Is Mickey Mantle playing?
Yeah.
No, he's on the injured reserve. Because he's dead. So,
Oh,
I'm sorry, buddy.
it's honorary.
Well, I don't really know how to end this show, man. So I just kind of end it like this.